So I would like to ask you to welcome Agnes Lehoczky, and also who is going to introduce her poetry, George Szirtes. And I don't want to really take the floor long, and I'd like to give the microphone and the floor to Nathan Hamilton, poet himself, and also from the EggBoxPublishing, who was so kind to publish Agnes poets, which we are very happy about. So I would like to wish you a very enjoyable and nice night, and please welcome together with me Agnes Lehoczky and George Szirtes and Nathan Hamilton.
Good evening. I don't know if it was nice of me to publish Aggie's book. I'm more kind of proud to. It's quite a piece of work. I'd like to start. Hi, yeah, I'm Nathan, as you said. I'd like to start off by thanking the Hungarian Cultural Centre for having us, and for George for helping arrange that, and in particular Natalia, who's done a lot of work helping us set this up. About Aggie. A word that keeps cropping up when people talk about having read the book, and certainly was in my mind when I was working on the manuscript with her, was freshness. There's certainly a freshness to Aggie's work and to her voice, to her poetic voice. It's a constant surprise, something about the choice of nouns maybe, perhaps that comes from being bilingual. It gives perhaps an interesting perspective on the English language. You often read collections where you know what's coming. You feel you've read it all before. That's certainly not the case with Aggie. Her voice has kind of a precocious wisdom to it, and it's concerned with an interesting philosophical inquiry as much as enjoyable and nicely chosen words as well, which is a rarity, especially the young poets. Often they become distracted by kind of fashions, I'd say, because that's my little piece. So I'm very happy, very proud to be here this evening. I'm very chuffed that George has agreed to help introduce, and I'll get out of the way. And I should say, sorry, George. This first half will be about 20 minutes, and then there'll be an interval where you'll get the free wine as promised. And hopefully buy books, and then we'll come back. There'll be another 20 minutes of reading, and then maybe even more wine after. I'm not sure, and more book buying. But anyway, I'll get out of the way and introduce you to my two favourite Hungarians, starting with George.
Nathan doesn't know any of them. It's a great pleasure for me to be here and to be joining Nathan and Aggie. I should just say something about Nathan himself, who's very modest. He's a very fine poet. He's really very good. He doesn't talk much about his own work. It's nice to be able to say that. He also runs EggBox Press, and they make rather beautiful books. So have a look at them. They really are very nice. And it's a selfless act, running a small press. It's lots of work, far more work than you would think. It means people giving up their time. It means people believing in others and supporting their talent, which I think people think is rare amongst literary folks, but it isn't. I think people do support each other. So I'm delighted that Nathan and EggBox have produced this book for Aggie. I've known Aggie's work for a few years now, and I've heard Aggie read as well. Aggie was part of a class in MA that I teach at the UEA, which I was teaching with Denise Riley, who's sitting in the back there. And Aggie's work was immediately impressive. I should say that it's a fascinating thing amongst young Hungarians. I remember when I was in Budapest several times, going over to the university there were considerable numbers who were writing in English, which seemed extraordinary to me, and writing very well. It seems natural in some way. I don't know why it should be more natural for Hungarians to do this, but they do it, and they do it, I think, remarkably well. Having said that, there are relatively few originally Hungarian poets who are English poets. I will count them on the fingers of probably one hand, and it is great thing to welcome another. It's an important thing too. It's an important thing for Hungarian literature as much as for English. Ági has written 2 books already in Hungarian, and this is the first English text. Nathan has already described her work, which I think is fascinating, intricate, has a kind of strange charm insofar as one is introduced into a very observant sensibility, which follows its instincts with great precision through quite complex thoughts. I think it's interesting that when you're writing in a second language, the things that seem to work best at the beginning are engagement with ideas and very precise observation. And I think those are 2 of the things that Ági does very well. What you will hear, I think, probably, are some prose poems as well as poems in verse. The prose poems are entirely interesting sort of area. And I know that one of Ági's great heroes is another Agnes, Nemes Nagy Agnes, one of the great Hungarian poets of the 20th century. And before handing over to her, I don't know how many of you know, but there are name days in Hungary, as it happens. And today happens to be Agnes Day. And we had some lovely flowers, tulips and roses, Hungarian flowers, English flowers. And with that appropriate note, I'm very pleased to hand over to Agnes Lehoczky.